Russian peacekeeping forces. In whatever country these three words are pronounced, they are perceived with regret, anger, hatred. This is not accidental because no matter where this contingent deployed, there is neither peace nor harmony. In whatever country they have deployed, it doesn't matter, with or without permission, they bring troubles and blood.
The peacekeeping forces have no legal basis to be in Karabakh. This is trilateral agreement. It is not voluntary, as it goes against international law. In fact, in today's world, where no one considers the law, the events in Ukraine by such a state as Russia have once again demonstrated this. There is a force factor here, and Russia is using this force. It has a military base in the South Caucasus. It wants to keep Azerbaijan and Georgia in a dependent position. Now, using the separatist regime in Karabakh, this country is trying to put pressure on the parties. Therefore, Armenia should find a language with Azerbaijan, conclude an agreement with Turkey. Open borders and economic recovery should begin in this country. If Armenia understands, these issues will find their solution. If Armenia doesn't understand this, then the problem will deepen even more. Therefore, the best option is to conclude a peace treaty between the countries and deepen cooperation, which will lead to the fact that the peacekeeping forces will be expelled from the region.
Unfortunately, today these armed forces, which instead of peacekeeping perform more non-peacemaking functions, are located in Karabakh. Today it's clear as a day to everyone that they have put their mission aside and are patronizing the Armenians. These so-called peacekeepers secretly arm the Armenians. As a result, they create serious obstacles to the peace that will be concluded between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Instead of calming down, resolving the conflict, they openly and brazenly engage in creating tension, igniting the conflict. Such cynical activity of the Russian armed forces, in fact, is a clear proof of the aggressiveness of Russian foreign policy and imperial habits.
If we are talking about peacekeepers, for example, we saw the activities of peacekeepers in 1991 and saw what they did. With their participation, they caused damage to Karabakh. Ukrainian cities cannot be compared with what happened here. As for Russia's policy, it is impossible to understand it. Imagine what have their peacekeepers done in the city of Aleppo in Syria. They destroyed the city. The general who destroyed Aleppo has now been sent to Ukraine, where massacres are being committed. Russian peacekeeping forces do not bring peace anywhere. Imagine the peacekeeping forces stationed in Khankinti keep the Armenian armed forces in Khankinti, despite the fact that a trilateral agreement that was signed between Putin Vladimir Vladimirovich, Aliyev Ilham Heydaroglu, and Pashinyan, according to which these forces had to be withdrawn from there. The Zangezur corridor had to be opened. All of this has not been done. Russia is silent about it, does not exert any influence on Armenia within the limits of its forces and capabilities. Today, the peacekeepers stationed there turn a blind eye to the actions of the Armenian armed formations. Today, the Lachen corridor remains a big problem on the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. All this should come under the control of Azerbaijan. Both the Lachen corridor and all other roads should belong to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan should perform its functions there, and we and the head of state say that Armenians who want to live peacefully should live peacefully. Armenians who want to live peacefully can cross the border and live with an Azerbaijani passport.
Yoxsa dinc yaşayan orada ermənilər istəsələr sərhədi keçib edə bilərlər.
According to Azerbaijani laws.
Yəni burada heç kəs hiçbir
No one in Azerbaijan is going to create problem in this direction.
Sülh məramlı demək olarsa onlara.
If they can be called peacemakers, I think they should actually be called troublemakers. They continue to do in the Caucasus what their grandfathers and great-grandfathers did. The Russians, more precisely the Russian Empire, continues its divide and rule line which they attribute to Julius Caesar, but which he did not even mention. These troublemakers continue this policy, but this time they no longer divide, but stand on the side of the Armenians. It is them who erect monuments and build houses in Khojaly. It is them when the Armenians open fire at night.
Cəfər Cabbarlı 1905-ci ildə sərhədini işlatan Kazaklardır.
As Jafar Jabala said in 1905 about Cossacks, now their descendants do the same. Similarly, on Mount Farouk, after receiving a blow from our military in their native language, they experienced great panic. As soon as these troublemakers leave the Caucasus, and for now they are only there in Karabakh, residing in Khankendi and making problems, then all peoples of the Caucasus will live in peace. When they get out of there, then all peoples in the Caucasus will live as good neighbors and in well-being.
Today, the Russian army that entered Ukraine also began its operation as a peacekeeping. Look at their intentions, at their world. The true name of their actions is vandalism, savagery, and a crime against humanity. Of course, we must take advantage of all opportunities for the so-called Russian peacekeepers to leave our lands. If we remain silent, agree with the situation and do not resist, Russia will take the next steps and sooner or later will take its dirty intentions at the creation of a military base on our sovereign territory. This, in no case, cannot be allowed.
Sülh məramlılar, Rus sülh məramlıları.
Peacekeepers, Russian peacekeepers. You know, the world has changed so much over the past month and a half at the speed of a lightning, that when we talk about the topic of peacekeepers, which you are talking about, we need to be far from the style of diplomatic negotiations, the language of Aesop. We must speak openly in a language that everyone understands. Russian peacekeepers, in fact, are troublemakers. Pay attention, wherever they go as peacekeepers, wherever they set foot, there is always blood and grief. It is like a seed, wherever you sow it, only death grows there. In Ukraine, they also entered under the cover of peacekeepers. The same is in Moldova, in Syria, and in many other countries of the world, including Nagorno-Karabakh. Remember, according to the trilateral agreement, Russian peacekeepers entered Karabakh on November 10. Interestingly, the agreement was signed on the night of November 10 to 10, and less than an hour later, such a large group under the cover of peacekeepers entered our territories. It was agreed that their number will be 2,000 people, but now their number exceeds 12,000 people. That is, the Russians themselves were the first to violate the agreement, not the Armenians. The way they create troubles in Ukraine, the horrors, unthinkable tragedies, crimes they commit, all this happens in front of our eyes. Today we must clearly say that the peacekeepers located on the territory of Azerbaijan, Karabakh, are the biggest obstacle to the restoration of peace. In fact, after the remarkable victory in the 44-day war, we could have found a common language with Armenians if there were no Russian peacekeepers. Everything would have been okay. Contrary to the assignments, instead of withdrawing the Armenian army formations from there, they create a condition so that there will be more of this militant coming through the Lachen corridor. This willy-nilly leads to armed clashes and does not provide an opportunity to solve this problem.
Bu da göz önündə. Bugün biz açıq deməliyik.
To do this, I think our society, public opinion, must demonstrate an unambiguous position so that these peacekeepers will withdraw or to be kicked out from there. Otherwise, this problem, the Karabakh problem, the problem between Armenians and Azerbaijanis living there, will last for many years, even indefinitely.
44 günlük möhtəşəm qələbədən sonra
From time to time, we will have martyrs. From time to time, mines will explode. Our people will die. By the way, I should note that the mines that exploded there, numbering several tens, hundreds of thousands of mines, are weapons brought from Russia and now exuding death. They allegedly give mine maps to us, but as it turns out, 70 to 8% of these maps show incorrect points. It means that Russia is still interested in maintaining tensions, unresolved conflict, turning the problem gradually into the tragedy of Karabakh. Therefore, there are numerous facts that is not a conclusion, as I said. We must speak in a clear language, that is, it is not a conclusion. It is a fact that the Russians have been pursuing a policy for more than a century. If not creating a bleeding wound, then spreading a bleeding wound in Azerbaijan. Today, the whole world, the whole advanced world, the West, saw the true face of Russia and united against Russia. This is shown by the sanctions applied against this country, military assistance to Ukraine in general. The last mask they tried to keep was torn off the face of Russia. And we, taking advantage of this, must present our truth, that we are able to solve problems ourselves. For this, the Russian peacekeepers must live here. The agreement stipulates a 5-year term. You should not wait for 5 years. The Minsk group has been deceiving us for years, calming us down, but in fact did nothing.
Demək, bəlkə də 70-80% belə deyək də, yalançı nöqtələri göstərir.
Now we have got rid of one problem, but we are faced with another. Now these Russian peacekeepers, ostensibly peacekeepers in fact, as I have said, are busy trying to create a tragedy out of the problems. To do this, all of us, the people, the public, the government, and the opposition must demonstrate an ambiguous position on this issue, that the so-called
Rusiyanın dırnaq içində sülhməramları
Russian peacekeepers must leave the Azerbaijani territories. It is that simple.
Maraqlı və vacib hadisələrdən xəbər tutmaq üçün Veten TV-yə abunə olun.